Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the time has finally arrived for the moment we have been waiting for approximately 7 long years. Goten and Trunks have finally grown up. If you have followed this channel from the dawn of time, you will know that your neighborhood friendly Qaaman has complained consistently over many years about Goten and Trunks not aging. Arcs will be sent forward in this franchise of Dragon Ball Super, of characters that clearly showed that a year or months of time had passed to the point where Pan was born. And if Pan is born, and if Pan was 4 at the end of Z, that meant that Dragon Ball Super must be a minimum of 6 years past the defeat of Majin Buu. Meaning that Dragon Ball Super was more than halfway through the time gap, and all of the other years that passed must have been in that 4-year gap. And guys, this is not a scripted video. This is not an edited video. I am speaking to you as naturally as I can speak, because I feel that the veil has been removed from my eyes. I feel the weight has been lifted from my back. I feel a sense of peace in this franchise, knowing that Goten and Trunks have finally aged. And if you guys know the old school Qaaman, you know that I would be dropping some powerful F-bombs of excitement to really show you how happy I am about this. But those are different times, my friends. And for today, we must be quiet and bask in this victory. Because we did it, guys. We finally made it to an age in life where we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. We can finally see them grow up. This is awesome. I lived long enough to see Goten and Trunks age in Dragon Ball Super. Congratulations, guys. Tap yourself on the back right now. Pause this video and pat yourself on the back. You were able to live long enough in your life to see Goten and Trunks get older. That, my friends, is a joy in itself. And you should be so happy that you were able to witness such a miraculous event in Dragon Ball history that should have happened so long ago. But it finally happened. And thank you so much for listening to me go into this this level of excitement for the first 3 minutes of this video. But guys, honestly, I'm talking to you really natural here and just speaking to you about some things about this movie. I'll be honest, guys, this whole Dragon Ball Super hero movie, first of all, I think the name of the movie is silly because it kind of reminds me of Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan. You know, you remember, guys, I hated that title. I was so happy when Super Saiyan Blue came out. It's such... It had, like, its own element to things, but Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan, it just sounds so redundant. Like, I am a Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan. It was the worst title in the world. So with the title Dragon Ball Super Superhero, I mean, if you just called it Dragon Ball Superhero, that would just be cool. Like Dragon Ball Super Broly. You know, that would, like, really hit a lot better. But Dragon Ball Superhero, it just sounds bad. And I'll be honest with you, you know, the fact that the movie was going to have Pan as an integral part of the movie, I had mixed interest in this. But then when Gohan was said to be a major contributing character along with Piccolo, and if you guys know, Gohan and Piccolo are basically my favorite characters along with Master Roshi, so I'm like, wow, I'm getting my 2 favorite characters in this movie. And for those of you who don't know, Gohan was my favorite character for pretty much the majority of my Dragon Ball fandom life. I've only really had 4 favorite characters. It's been Trunks first, then it was Gohan, then it was Piccolo, and now it's kind of like split between Piccolo and Master Roshi. But that's another conversation for another day. Point I'm trying to say here today, guys, is that I'm really happy about this. I think the interest in this movie has gone up a lot. And I think also, with some people talking about the fact that Cell might also come into this movie as well, it just makes me want to watch this more. Now, granted, we need a lot more evidence before we can confirm this, but it would make sense considering this is an Android-themed video, and if you guys know, I mean, the majority of my content's been about the Android arc. I think the Android saga is by far the best saga in Dragon Ball history. I think it's the most iconic, it's the best for creating what-ifs. All of these things can be explained in a multitude of ways, guys, but ultimately, I just wanted to say a couple of things that I wrote here in my notes, but I wanted to give you a very, very natural one-take video so you guys can feel it as a conversation more than an actual, like, professional video. Now, in the thumbnail, and also if you look really, really, really close, you'll see, and credit goes to John Opie Senpai for, pointing this out, because I would not have noticed this. You will see that Goten and Trunks, if you really, really, really zoom in, their fingers are off, which would suggest that, as we've seen throughout many times in Dragon Ball, whenever Goten and Trunks have an error in their fusion, it leads to a very skinny version of Gotenks, or a very, very fat version of Gotenks. The old skinny version is, you guys probably remember if you played like Dragon Ball Z Budokai back in the day, Budokai 2 I remember specifically, like whenever you'd screw up the Gotenks fusion and they'd put those buttons on the screen that you're supposed to press and you screwed it up, like you'd get the bad fusion, and that was always so much fun, so honestly guys, the bad fusion definitely shows that Goten and Trunks have been out of practice probably, because I mean, let's be honest, this is a time skip, and assuming that these characters are living through a lot of peace, well, that basically means that one of them might make an error. And I think, some of the things that I should also point out here too is that there's also no Android 17, which I think, based off of the fact that this is a movie about the androids, and if 17 was revealed, please correct me in the comment section below, but there was no Android 17, and considering that, Android 18 is shown here in a rather exquisite new design, I would say that 17 should be a part of this, especially considering that he's a part of the main cast now after the 20-minute powers. So no 17, it would kind of suck. I mean, if it's a movie about the androids, 17 and 18 always complement each other so perfectly, with their personalities and the fact that, they fight so well together, so honestly, that's something I also wanted to point out. And in addition to this, guys, I mean, the last thing I really wanted to point out was if Cell were to really, like, come back, right? Like, the thing is, the one thing that's really weird about all of this is how exactly would Cell come back? I mean, I guess if you make, like, a new Cell, like what Dr. Gero did in Dragon Ball GT when, he made Hellfighter 17 with Dr. Mew, I guess you can kind of do something like that. But the problem is that if you're trying to, like, compare this movie to Resurrection F, where, like, Frieza was the main villain that came back in Resurrection F, then how on earth are you going to bring Cell back to life? Like, is somebody going to use the Dragon Balls to wish Cell back? Are you going to make, like, a newer version of Cell? What did Dr. Gero have, like, I don't know, like, some other variant of Cell that was never released? I like the problem is that we have to go into a lot of headcanon to really, like, try to create an excuse for Cell to exist. And the problem with all of this, guys, is that I'd love to see Cell come back. I think he's a phenomenal villain, and this is a more personal video, so I'm telling you a little bit more about, my general thoughts on things, but I just don't see a realistic way Cell can come back, and that's why the comment section's for you guys. I want to know what you guys think, how on earth could Cell come back when he's dead? And it would be difficult to revive him, like, instead of Frieza, because Frieza still had remnants of his army that makes logical continuity sense that an empire as big as Frieza's would still have some people who were still alive. You know what I mean? So ultimately, I think this movie has a lot more hype now. I think it's going to be a lot more fun, and I really like the cast that we have. Because some Dragon Ball movies really limit the cast to certain characters. I kind of like this, like, I mean, I wouldn't say it's an ensemble cast, but I really like the fact that there's so many characters that are going to be active in this. Whereas in Dragon Ball Super Broly, it was a fun movie, but the cast was a lot smaller than other Dragon Ball films that we've had. And I definitely think that when we can see the whole party coming together in a movie like Battle of Gods or Resurrection F or Wrath of the Dragon or Fusion Reborn, that's when you can see all the different attacks, and the weaker characters can get more shine against the weaker villains, and it's a lot more balanced. And I think in a movie like this, it's really good for the strong characters to shine, and it's also really good for the weak characters to also get their moments. So overall, guys, that's been my unscripted video on my thoughts on the movie. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and stay cool and stay safe, my friends.